Alright y'all, here is your daily cut into what happened in the NBA on Monday, January 4th. We had a 9-game slate full of some good NBA basketball to consume. As always, I'll have timestamps in the description so you can bounce around from game to game and see what you want to see. But outside of that, we're going to get into what happened in yesterday's games. The Orlando Magic blew out the depleted Cleveland Cavaliers team as Aaron Gordon led the way with a 24-11 stat line, and Nikola Vucevic also chipped in 23 points of his own. This served as a good get-right game for this Orlando Magic team. They lost their last two in pretty poor efforts, so to come out here, albeit against a Cavaliers team that was out with Darius Garland was missing, Kevin Love remains out, Isaac Okoro, their new rookie, is still out, so a lot of missing pieces on this Cavs team, but again, good win for the Magic. Aaron Gordon had also been in a bit of a slump since the season opener, especially from the three-point line, so it was good to see him in this one score a team-high 24 while also making 6 threes, which ended up tripling his total on the season, so again, maybe good things are going to be coming for Aaron Gordon over these next few games as he's finally looks to be breaking out of his early season slump. As for the Cavs, Colin Sexton's 24 points was not enough to get the job done, and again, they were injury riddled. A lot of guys were missing from the team, so to see this Cavs team come out, be depleted, and still put up a good fight for 3 quarters, that's all you really would want to see as a Cavs fan, and I still have high hopes for them this season after a hot start. The Philadelphia 76ers moved to a league-best 6-1 record after Tobias Harris again leads the team in scoring with 22. What's really funny about this new Sixers team is they have been the hotspot for NBA drama these past couple of seasons. Everyone is always hyping them up in the preseason, and then they always fizzle out at some point, whether it's injuries or just poor team chemistry or just poor roster construction in general. But since bringing on Doc Rivers and Daryl Morey to help fix the team, they've gone from a overrated, drama-filled basketball team to now they are quietly, very, very quietly leading the league in terms of record, and they have been playing like the best team in the league so far. And I think that just speaks volumes to the job that Doc Rivers and Daryl Morey have done, both coaching this team and building a good roster around these star players, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. It's just all really funny because this is quite literally the sacred 76ers team that Philly fans have been hyping up for the past couple of years now, and all 29 other fan bases have been having a field day just making an absolute mockery of the fans. But now the tables have turned, the Philly fans are the ones laughing now, and to be honest, I'm here for it. Let's get crazy this season in the NBA. As for the Hornets, they were just outplayed the entire game. Gordon Hayward led the way and had a team-high 18 points. But the big storyline, as always for Charlotte, is the start the ball movement. While he continues to come off the bench, LaMelo Ball actually did end up playing the second most minutes out of all the Hornets on the roster behind Gordon Hayward. And while this might mean nothing, he did end up playing more minutes than Rozier and Graham, the both of them. And again, this could all just be the fact that they were down for most of this game, so they're giving LaMelo some more run. But I'd like to think the latter. I'd think this could be progress in the terms of the start the ball campaign. He deserves it. Devontae Graham has not been playing well. LaMelo is just a great facilitator. Again, Hornets, please just put him in the starting lineup already. Jason Tatum scored 40 points as he was helping the Celtics recover from a very slow start, but they turned things around. They handled the Raptors pretty easily in the first rematch since the most recent playoffs. And if it wasn't clear before, it's very clear now. Tatum and Brown are simply just playing like one of the best duos in the NBA. You know, we have our LeBron and ADs, we have our PG and Kawhis, and this isn't even me being a biased Celtics fan. Brown and Tatum are officially entering that tier of top duos in the league. So far to start this season, they're quite literally just taking turns, dropping 30 points on every team they play. They're doing it on good shooting efficiencies. It's a shame that the rest of the offense hasn't quite figured themselves out yet, because if they had, then this Celtics team would probably be boasting one of the top records in the league as well. But either way, Brown and Tatum have just been absolutely amazing and fun to watch. But one player off the bench who continues to amaze me as well is Peyton Pritchard. The rookie dropped a 23-8 stat line in last night's game, and he just continues to play like a 5-year vet. I was one of the many who seriously questioned this draft pick when it happened, but so far Pritchard, just his ability to maintain his dribble, drive into the lane, and find either the open man or just put up some floater has been amazing. And on the flip side, he's also been great as a spot-up shooter on, beyond the 3-point line. I mean, this man, he lets them rip from anywhere, and he has been hitting. And he's already convinced me that he should be a rotational piece, maybe even more for the rest of the season, even though it's only his rookie year. But all good things aside, the one issue that has been just nagging at me this entire season for the Boston Celtics is this 2 center starting lineup they've been using, where they start Smart, or some point guard, since Smart hasn't played every game, but some point guard, Brown, Tatum, and then they start Tyson Thompson, and this lineup has just been abysmal. So far, it's posted a negative 16.1 net rating as a 5-man lineup, and again, it's just awful. Just please start someone new, or just some new lineup variation. As for the Raptors, they just continue to lose. They're now 1-5 on the year, despite a 35-point performance from Father Fred VanVleet. And I just feel bad for the Raptors at this point. They had to move to Tampa. Their team just simply got worse by loss of talent, and overall, they've just been off to a cold start. They're really digging themselves into a hole in terms of rest of season, playoff seeding and all that stuff. And I still want to believe in this team. I want Pascal Siakam to prove himself as a viable starting caliber player, but I don't know. They just seem to keep on doing everything wrong. And one of the early good surprises of this basketball season has been the New York Knicks, as they notched yet another win last night. They're 7 games into their season. They have an above 500 record for the first time in a while this late into the year. And I mean, they beat the Red Hot Hawks to get there, so props to them. They got a 28, 17, and 9 stat line from Julius Randle, while also getting 26 and 11 from RJ Barrett, as the Tom Thibodeau effect is in full effect, as now after this game, Randle and Barrett are number 1 and 2 in terms of minutes per game across the entire league, as they are both above 38 per night. And while the Knicks are winning games, you have to question Thibodeau's rotations at some point, because playing guys 40 minutes, close to 40 minutes a night across the entire season just is not good for the body. It's going to potentially derail their careers, and yeah, I've never been a fan of it. I don't understand why GMs and owners still allow him to play like this. I guess it is getting them wins right now, but again, you have to think for the future a little bit as well. But minutes issues aside, Julius Randle is playing at an all-star level, or maybe even better. Through 7 games, he's now averaging 21, 10, and 7, while maintaining a 40% shooting stroke from beyond the 3-point line. And again, there might even be an All-NBA campaign somewhere in there, so I guess props to Julius Randle. And Trae Young led the way with a 31-14 stat line for the Atlanta Hawks in the losing effort. But the guy who's impressed me most for the Hawks so far this season is DeAndre Hunter. Although his actual stats may not be evident of a huge leap, trust me, DeAndre Hunter is taking a huge leap. He's grown a lot since his rookie year. He's added a ton of muscle, a ton of strength, which is making him an even better defender than what he was coming into the league. He's really locking down opposing scores, and in the meanwhile, he's also using it to increase his ability to drive on the offensive end, get into the paint, and score at will. It also helps that he's been shooting lights out at 48% from beyond the 3-point line on 5 attempts per game so far to start the year. In Miami, the Heat handled the Oklahoma City Thunder by 28 points, in what was just all around a nice solid team effort from the Heat. Adebayo led the way with 20 points, while we got a good Kelly Olynyk game, who had 19 in this game as well. It says something crazy happened in this one. I'm just going to take this time to talk about Tyler Herro and what he's been doing this season, because he came into the league, he was drafted to be a scorer. Off the bench or in the starting lineup doesn't quite matter, but so far this year, the Heat have been persistent in starting him at the point guard position and basically forcing him to become a better playmaker. Herro had always shown flashes of some playmaking, here and there in the pick and roll, but it seems like the Heat are fully trying to make him into a viable starting point guard in the NBA, and so far he's shown some good progress. Last season, he averaged 2 assists to about 1.5 turnovers, while so far across the early start to this season, he is now averaging 5 assists and 2.3 turnovers a game. So while nothing crazy, there definitely is some improvement being shown in his ability to play make for the Heat. And for the Thunder, SGA led the team with 18 points, and outside of that, it was just a typical Thunder game, a lot of player development, not a whole lot of winning basketball, but that's okay. We love the Thunder for what they are. They're just going to continue to do their thing, get their picks, develop some talent, and grow. In Houston, Luka led the way for the Mavericks as they got the win behind his 33, 16, and 11 performance, while Tim Hardaway Jr. also chipped in 30 off of the bench. With the Mavs coming into this game at a 2-4 record, they decided to make some changes, switch up some rotations, and most importantly get a new starting lineup out there. So they moved Tim Hardaway Jr. and Dwight Powell to the bench in favor of Maxi Kleber and Willie Cauley-Stein. And when comparing these two starting lineups, the old starting lineup had a negative 11.7 net rating in 54 minutes, while this new one, they played together for the first time last night and only logged 6 minutes, but they did produce a 100 net rating, which obviously is very unsustainable in the NBA. It'll definitely regress as more time goes on and they play more together, but it at least does show that there is a definite improvement in the new starting lineup. And perhaps changing up the rotation was just what the Mavs needed in order to get a little bit of a spark plug to really get their season going. As for Houston, Christian Wood, James Harden, and Eric Gordon all scored into their 20s in the losing effort. And the Rockets as a team just had a very poor shooting night. They shot 11 of 40 from 3, good for about 27%, but the main storyline from this one was Boogie Cousins only played 3 minutes after picking up 2 technical fouls, which led to his ejection from the game. And although, Boogie, he's known to have a short temper, he's known to pick up technicals pretty fast and a lot across a single season, I don't blame him for these ones. They really were questionable calls, and yeah, it was unfortunate for Boogie and unfortunate for the Rockets. And this is because Boogie's the only true big man to come off the bench for the Rockets, so in this one, they lose him after 3 minutes of playtime early in the second quarter, and from there on, it was just Christian Wood and PJ Tucker were the only guys who could really play the 5 that wasn't a complete small ball lineup, and although the Rockets are used to playing like this is not how Steven Silas really wants to play, and, again, they had a rough shooting night, but I bet that this also had quite some say in the final result as well. In Milwaukee, the Bucks held on after a late push from the Pistons behind a 43-9 performance from Giannis Antetokounmpo as the Bucks get back above 500. Overall, this was a classic Giannis domination game. I think the first one that we've really seen to start the season so far, he was just doing it all on the offensive and defensive end, just absolutely lighting up the Pistons, and again, Bucks were in control for most of this game. Pretty typical win for Milwaukee. And for Detroit, Jeremy Grant continues to hit the 20-point mark as he again finished with 24 in the loss. And Derrick Rose also had 24 off the bench, so I will take this opportunity to say the reminder to everyone that Derrick Rose needs to be traded this season. Pistons have no use for him on their team other than to win them meaningless games that will just eventually hurt them down the line, so it's time for the Pistons to get some assets in return for Derrick Rose. And in the thriller of the night, the Pelicans blow a 6-point lead very late in the game as the Pacers come back and win an OT as Victor Oladipo scored 25 and came up clutch down the line. He had a crazy sequence at the end of regulation where he drilled a deep 3, then got a steal that led to a Miles Turner 3 that tied up the game. Then in overtime, it was Malcolm Brogdon getting the game-winning bucket on his old Milwaukee Buck teammate Eric Bledsoe, that would eventually lead to the Pacers somehow winning this game. I say that because in this one, they were up against a big burly front court in Zion and Steven Adams for the Pelicans, and throughout this game, the Pacers lost both Domantas Sabonis and Miles Turner as they both fouled out late in the game. Yet this Pacers team just continues to get wins, and that is in big part thanks to the play of Victor Oladipo so far, who continues to play like his old All-Star level self. He's averaging the most points per game since his All-Star years, and a big part of that is that he's shooting more threes than ever in his career, and he's doing so at a 45% rate, which, although it probably is very unsustainable for a full season, it is just showing that Victor Oladipo is back. He's grinding out wins, he's shooting well, and the Pacers should be very happy to see that. The Pelicans played fine in this one. Brandon Ingram gave them 31 and 8, Zion provided 24 and 10. It just so happened that they had a pretty epic collapse late in the game. This tweet mentioned that over the past 10 seasons, teams that were up by 6 or more with 25 seconds left had an 8,104-2 record. And again, it's very upsetting that the Pelicans turned this to an 8,104-3 record. Although again, if the Pelicans are going to make these kinds of mistakes, now is the time, while they're still a young team figuring things out, they're definitely not a contender yet, so it's good to get these losses out of the way early. And finally, the last game of the night ended up being a blowout where the Warriors won by 31 points over the Sacramento Kings as Steph Curry followed up his career night with another 30 points. And Kelly Oubre continues his regression as he shot 4 of 6 from 3 last night, just continuing to steadily just rise up that 3-point percentage as the season goes on, and he looks like he's playing like his old self again, which is very good for Golden State. And outside of that, I mean, this 62-point performance from Steph Curry has really just seemed to spark the entire roster into playing well again. I know Draymond coming back has helped with that. Oubre and Wiggins continue to get back to their normal play styles and scoring outputs. So again, the Warriors team, after a rough 0-2 start, they're above 500 for the first time this season, and they continue to play well. And the Kings just had a really, really rough night. Perhaps that had something to do with the parents' Twitter activity over the past couple of days, although head coach Luke Walton seemed to deny those rumors. But overall, the Kings themselves might have answered my question that I've been asking since the first week of the season, and they gave me an answer, and it's that the Kings are just not a legit playoff team in the West yet. They still have a ways to go, although they've shown some flashes here and there. I still love De'Aaron Fox. I love Tyrese Halliburton. I really want to like Marvin Bagley, but his production just can never seem to meet the standards that he was given when he was drafted. But now the Sacramento losing streak is up to 3 games. They get the Chicago Bulls in their next one, so it'll be interesting to see how that one ends up, although I wouldn't actually recommend watching it. Rather watch from afar, just check out the box score, check out the final score once the game is done. I wouldn't actually recommend watching it. But that'll do it for this one. As always, leave your comments down below on what you thought about these games. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video or enjoy this type of content, and as always, most importantly, thank you for watching.